In this module, you will learn how to implement Microsoft Defender for Storage to protect Azure storage from threats. You will explore malware scanning, suspicious activity detection, security alerts, and automated responses using Azure Event Grid. For the SC-500 certification exam, focus on configuring Defender for storage and responding to detected threats. Here we are at the Azure portal, portal.azure.com. And you could, as always, just search for Microsoft Defender for Cloud. In my case, I already have it here. The first thing that we're going to look at or configure for the first time, it's in the management section, and it's under environment settings. So we need to set this up before anything works. And you could set at the root level, but we're going to continue working with our subscription. And so here are so remember that you need to have Defender CSPM. In the previous videos, we went over this and we talked about the foundational CSPM, the free tier, and the Defender for CSPM. This is a paid uh, that it's under the Cloud Workload Protection or CWPP. We have talked about this. If you have not yet watched those videos, I would encourage you to do so. But what we are looking at here is a storage for Microsoft Defender for storage. And notice how it is on in this environment here. If I click on the details, and here you have some of the pricings and stuff like that. But if you click on the details, this is what we were discussing, some of the things in the introduction that it will protect. Microsoft Defender for storage detects threats on your storage workloads and data, including malicious access, data exfiltration of sensitive data, and malware upload. So here you have something like simple one-click setups, no need to enable logs, agents, or rewiring. So everything it's set up there for you. It continuously analyzes data plane and control plane logs on Azure Blobs, Azure Data Lake Storage, and Azure Files. It leverages Microsoft Threat Intelligence and behavioral models. It generates context-based security alerts easily integrated with any SIEM. So you can connect this to either Microsoft Sentinel or Splunk or whatever the case may be. Detects data exposure events with sensitive data discovery, which is configurable. We'll talk about that. It detects malicious files upload to blob storage with near real-time malware scanning, which is also configurable. So those are some of the things that it does. And if we click on the settings, and this has already been configured, so you see that. But here you have a choice to to configure this thing. So when you enable an extension, it will be installed on any new or existing resource by assigning a security policy. So once you turn it on, it will do that. And the two components over here that we were discussing before are malware scanning. Malware scanning protects Azure Blob Storage from uh, acting as entry and distribution point of malware to your organization. It does this by scanning every blob that it's being uploaded in near real time, providing fast scan resource for response automation and compliance purposes. It's important to understand that there is a limit of the gigabyte scan to um, 10,000 gigabyte scan result is stored as the blob index tags. Enable soft delete malicious blobs, it's disabled, etc. So important to look at the limitations for that. Not, I don't believe you need any of that for the exam, but um, when it comes to sensitive data discovery automatically discover manage cloud resources and Azure API management APIs, containing sensitive data at scale. This feature uh, accesses your data. It is agentless, uses smart sampling scanning, and integrates with Microsoft Purview sensitive information types and labels. So, Microsoft Purview, which is a set of solutions for protecting sensitive data, integrates to, and this is one of the great things about Microsoft services. When you use Microsoft services, they integrate seamlessly. If you have silos and you have products from other vendors, and yes, you can um, mix and match, but the problem with that is the integration is not as seamlessly and easy as when you use Microsoft products. It's important to mention that over there. And yes, you know, uh, I am biased. I am a Microsoft employee, and so this channel is a personal channel. These are my opinions. Uh, I I am a practitioner of Microsoft security. I used to, um, prac- be a practitioner on previous jobs, and I have used these products before, and I know how effective they are. Anyway, so let's go back into so once you again configured this and set up your plans and stuff like that. Here we uh, you can configure settings and monitor on this piece over here, but this is not just necessarily about uh, the storage account. This is more about the whole Microsoft Defender for server, which we have discussed in other videos. So, but the important thing here was to configure that server. Now, in the so we looked at the security policies and the standards and all that kind of stuff. So here we have recommendations. This is all the policies that you could enable. By default, we have mentioned that the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark is the only one. But my point is that when you look at the recommendations, so all the recommendations will be here, um, including anything related to storage will be here. That's a lot of them. And the recommendations that you get here are surfaced based on the standards that you have on. So all those recommendations are only based on the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark. But if I enable, one of these, let's say that I enable the NIST, one of the NIST standard, or if I enable the ISO 27001, then there's going to be a lot more recommendation based on those standards, right? It's important to understand that. For you can set up email configuration, and again, this is not just about storage, but sorry, since we are here, I think it's important to mention this out. But you can set up email notifications and notification types, and here it's about work flow automation. You can create automations there. We're not going to get into that now. And this is about the continuous export. And so you can configure streaming export settings of Defender for cloud data to multiple export targets. And so again, I'm getting a little bit out of the not just necessary storage, but so you can export this event hub to, as I said, to other SIEM we were talking about, or to log analytics. And log analytics with space, that means that you use Microsoft Sentinel, right? So you can do that, and you can choose what kind of um, data is exported, right? And yeah, a lot of stuff here. Configuration, you could choose here either a resource group if you want to do that, and then you choose here the subscription that you want to, and you can also select the target workspace, whatever that may be. So a lot of information there about um, configuring Defender for cloud. So we've seen those pieces over there. If I go to another thing is, remember that Azure policy, it's one of the main places to configure uh, controls at a scale. And so if I come to Azure policy and I go to authoring and then go to definition, let's take a look at some of the definitions related to storage. So here we have a lot of stuff related to storage that we can configure. So if we have, hundreds of thousands of storage accounts that we want to configure, obviously, you know, you would assign a definition or an initiative. And we have already been here. There is a whole uh, module about Azure policies and definitions, all that stuff. So if you have not watched those videos, I would encourage you to do so. But anyway, so just wanted to show you that there are tons of stuff here that can be configured. So if you want to restrict location of information processing for storage services, then you could assign this definition right here. You could assign this policy, choose the subscription, if you have any exclusion, etc., and then you can do that there. All right. So another thing is, if we are here, I just chose an account. Let me just go back just in case this is the first time you come here, but um, you can look for storage accounts here. And here they are. And let's look at this storage account we have been working. Again, there is a whole section about how to create these storage accounts also step by step. So if you haven't watched those, then do so as well. And so we have already been here when it comes to configuring the security and networking of the storage accounts. But in this case, we are uh, focused on Microsoft Defender for cloud when it comes to storage, right? So this is what we are looking on. And you could go directly, into the Defender for cloud that where we were previously. You could also, so this is on, Microsoft Defender for Storage is on. And so activity monitoring, log analysis based threat detection, sensitive data threat detections, all of this is on. And again, you can, click on this, and there is a lot more stuff over here that you can do, similar to the stuff that we already saw. But all of this is configurable, and we talked about that. So tons of settings depending on what you want to do. So that's what we were discussing in the introduction there. There's also on-demand malware scanning. So you can scan all blobs and files in your storage account. Um, Individual blob and file verdicts can be consumed through one of these supported output channels like log analytics, event grid, and index tags. So remember that log analytics is basically, if you use Microsoft Sentinels, that would be, that would be a great place. But if you use another SIEM like a, like a Splunk or one of the mainies out there, you could use event grid for that. And so yes, you can, scan a storage account for malware. We're not going to do that, and there's some cost involved over there. The You can view recommendations for this as well if you wanted to. So tons of stuff over here. Important to understand that. Anyway, so yeah, this is Microsoft Defender for storage. It's a huge topic, and that's what we're covering here. So we are again on the Microsoft Certified Cloud and AI Security Engineer Associate certification, and we are on course 4. Remember, this is divided into courses or learning paths. There are 12 of these. It's a huge certification. And we are on learning path number 4. And then this learning paths are divided into modules. And we have covered all this already. Okay. So this is basically the last module of this learning path, and this is what we just covered. So I would encourage you to come over here and go through some of these readings. But these are some of the things that we did. We configure Microsoft Defender for storage, and these are the 3 detection pillars, right? Activity monitoring, as we saw, the malware scanning, and sensitive data detection. Those are the 3 biggest components of almost everything that we do that we did here. Okay, and here's more information about what each of this detection pillar does, and that kind of stuff. So if you want further reading, then you can come over here, and but we cover most of these things here. Enable and deploy Defender for storage. We went through that already. Um, it's important to mention that Microsoft Defender for storage operates at 2 enablement scopes. You can enable at the subscription, as I did, or at the resource level. So you can configure Defender just at the storage account level. You can do that if you wanted to. The scope that you choose determine which storage accounts receive protection and how consistently the configuration applies. And that's why it's recommended to do the subscription level, because when you have the subscription, anything underneath that will be protected. Okay, so we talked about all this. So you could use either the management group or the subscription or the resource. This is what that is talking about here. Okay, and so all of this is related to what we are discussing here. We also talked a little bit about Azure policy, that we can use Azure policy to enforce, uh, you know, remediate gaps automatically across new subscriptions. So rather than doing that, we could also use, Azure policy to enforce Microsoft Defender for storage. That's what this is saying. Okay, and a lot more information on this as well. On Unit 4, um, this is configure malware scanning. We went already on that. So malware scanning, upload, float, and scan results. So when you upload files, they are scanned. You can configure to scan that on real time, right? Using the Defender Scan Engine or MDAV. And there's a lot of information about this. Okay, protecting, um, blocking, quarantining malicious files. And here's some information about the scanning configuration, the purpose, the cost impact, and when should you use that, is the best case scenarios, right? So a lot of information about on-upload scanning, which is real-time protection. As files arrive, they are charged per gigabyte uploaded. And the partner upload pipelines, external content injection, etc. Those are used for that. On-demand scanning, retrospective analysis of existing content. So there are many malicious activities that may not trigger right away. They are dormant. There may be, there have been viruses that basically start functioning on a specific event or dates. So when you do that on demand scanning, to even though when you, if everything is configured and you upload the file, yes, the file has already been scanned, but um, there may be something on those files that if you really want to the, protect yourself, on demand scan is really useful. So they are charged per gigabyte scan, no monthly cap, and historical data validation threat hunting, for example. That's basically, there may be a case in which, or a compliance that may require that. Monthly cap, the default is 10,000 gigabyte on upload only. Cost control for on-upload scanning, prevents unexpected on-upload charges, etc. Custom cap per account as well. So some more information there too. All right. Um, yeah. So some more numbers over here. I'm not sure that they're gonna get the detail on the exam, but it's always important to understand this, especially on the cost piece of this. Okay. And so configure alert routing and validate defender coverage. Um, so Microsoft Defender for Storage generate alerts when it detects suspicious activity, malware uploads, or anomalous access patterns. Your configuration. This is some of the configurations that we went through. If you need more information about that, so we talked about the email notifications, and and you know you may not want to be alerted on everything. There may be alerts that are false positive and you want to suppress that. That's what this is discussing right there. All right. And as always, take your knowledge quiz here, knowledge check, just to make sure that you understand. You can all do that when you come into the Microsoft Learn component. All right. So we have concluded then course 4 with this video, and the next learning path, or the the next course, is implement security for Azure SQL database. This is what we're going to be working next. The courses over here, modules, we have configure platform level security for Azure SQL. We're going to be looking into that. Configuring auditing for Azure SQL database and SQL managed instance, and implementing Microsoft Defender for databases. Okay, so there is a Defender for many workloads. So then we're going to be working with Defender again, but now for databases. And that's what we're going to be doing next. Thank you. And I hope that you come back on this learning path journey to the SC-500 certification exam. See you then.